Klochko, and today is Thursday, and it's our usual live, 7:30 p.m. in London. Thank you for joining me, finding time. It's been a hell of a week, I guess, for all of us, no matter where we are. So I think today we're gonna do quite short live, but still a few things I wanted to discuss, to tell you. So if you have any questions, comments, please let me know, and I will be grateful for them. So before I just start of things, I wanted to say, just remind you about the news, sort of like new things happened since the new year on the podcast. The publishing of the interview on Sunday happens now at 6 p.m. on Sunday, not 7 o'clock in the morning. And we have two lives during the week, so it's 7:30 p.m. on Monday. We discuss an interview published, and Thursday we discuss current events. And before we start, basically you've seen on the cover of this live there's Zelenskyy, Trump. Before I jump into it, I think it's a bit, as the situation is developing and there are new updates and probably new messages both sides gonna send backwards, forwards, I would like to remind you that today, on the 20th of February, Ukrainians commemorate the memory of the heroes of the Heavenly Hundred. So 11 years ago, tragic events unfolded in the center of Kyiv. Back then, thousands of peaceful protesters fell victims of a brutal shooting. Unfortunately, the investigations of those crimes haven't been successful. It's all sort of like as the powers, the government changed, and as the sort of like lots of speculation, manipulation, and I don't think the society in Ukraine feel like it's been justice done for those who fell. So it's 108 people died. And today when I was reading those stories of those people, and they actually not only Ukrainian, mostly, but they're also the ethnic Georgian, the Belarusian, and the people who felt, with whom resonated fight for freedom, for democracy. So it was quite united for many people of that part of the world. So fight against someone who didn't want to follow democratic values, let's put it like that. Hello, Pirate. So I would like, if you know, I would like you to, again, to think about it. If you don't, please have a look. And it's quite tragic and quite difficult page for Ukrainian people. But yes, so when I was looking at the stories, and there's a child, one of the men who died back then because he was shot dead on the central square of Ukraine. And the child says, my father is a hero not because he died, my father is a hero because he fought. And fighting for freedom, fighting for dignity is the quintessentially sort of main message with the mentality of Ukrainians. So it's quite relevant for today, isn't it? What's happening between Trump and President Zelenskyy. So, brief, I just remind you, you're probably aware, but still, Trump accused Ukraine of the start of the war, which is not true, and it's more sort of like Russian narrative resonate, and called President Zelenskyy a modestly successful comedian, which is again not true. He was quite popular and quite loved by many people, and there was significant support for presidential election and for his political party during the parliament election. So it's all untrue, and you probably have heard it, and all the critics and the truth of who, and also there's been saying important thing, again resonates with Russian narrative of Russian propaganda coming from Kremlin about the changing, they want to change Zelenskyy, they want to change pro-Ukrainian government and authorities and just have own Muppets there, and they pushing for elections. Ukraine can't have elections because of the martial law, and constitution forbids this. But as soon as the war is finished and the being in Ukraine and sort of being safe, I'm sure Ukrainian people will do happily elections. But Zelenskyy is inconvenient for the Russian dictator. And now Trump started saying those things. So in a way, it was expected because from, I don't know how you, but I was reading and listening to different diplomats and those people who somehow might be involved or would be involved in the negotiations, and they were sort of warning, please don't listen to the news, to the everything what people say, because it's kind of like warm up before elections. And so it's just keep calm, keep your head sort of cold, and don't take everything close to your heart. And this is what basically happened. And accusing, the only difference what happened among all the Ukrainian presidents Ukraine had since the collapse of Soviet Union and gaining freedom, Ukraine's president who is inconvenient, who speaks his mind and who puts Ukrainian interest at the center and his priority. So just think again about Budapest Memorandum, when Ukraine was pushed to get rid of the nuclear bombs and nuclear planes which would carry those bombs. Ukraine did listen. It's quite a complex matter. If you look at it and sort of trying to answer the question, could Ukraine do differently? It's difficult to say. I had this discussion with Mariana Bucharin. She wrote the book Ukraine's Bomb. Check on the website, on my podcast, you will see this interview. So then when Crimea was annexed, and Poroshenko hasn't been elected yet, but Turchinov and other people who were sort of in charge in Ukraine after Yanukovych escaped. Obviously, Yanukovych was very convenient for Russia. It wasn't so easy with Kuchma, but he kind of like was balanced between US and Russia. But there was the conflict about Tuzla situation, and that was quite close to the conflict. If you're interested, check those things. I haven't covered it on my podcast. It's quite far in the history, but worth looking. And President Kuchma was saying Ukraine is not Russia. And such a simple phrase or simple words, but it means actually a lot. He wrote the book, he claims he wrote the book, but the thing is where he explaining why we're so different. So when Crimea was annexed and when Putin invaded the east of Ukraine, and again, there was the long queue of the foreign diplomats from the US, Europe, everywhere. And they all were saying, oh, please don't fight back. Don't try to do sort of like any shooting or anything for Crimea. We will return everything via sort of diplomatic way. Nothing happened. Hello, Cheryl. Hello, hello. So nothing happened. And I know there are many people support Poroshenko, not as many as Zelenskyy, but Poroshenko still was sort of like more or less convenient. And but Zelenskyy said no. So he's difficult to handle. And he dares to say no. And he dares to contradict and not be in agree and not to keep silent. And this is first time in history. So my personal feelings, yes, I do support him, and I see how even those people who from different political camps, even journalists who were criticizing Zelenskyy and his team, they're getting united. Because it is one thing, if Ukrainians have issues with Zelenskyy, they will sort them out. But no one allowed to criticize and mock Ukrainian president down, because people elected him. Someone writing Zelenskyy hero Ukraine, maybe for some people, maybe, I don't mind. I liked his brave approach. I know it's difficult, but thank goodness he did. It's kind of new tactics on the global scene coming from Ukraine, because before it was, as I tried to explain, I hope it was quite clear, that before there was kind of meek and obedient type, more or less. different types of people. Where Ukrainian President Yushchenko, he had different context. Poor thing was poisoned and he needed to sort out his health. He seems like a nice man, good politician, but you know, he nearly died. So you can't really be very judgmental towards him. And his team, it was quite difficult to handle. Zelenskyy tried something new. It's resonated with me big time, but also they started, I like your comments, I'll come to that. So, but we will see if these tactics will actually work, because Trump expectedly, he sort of like how he usually negotiates. He threatens and he blackmail. He did it before when he got impeachment during his first time, and he was trying to make Zelenskyy to do his way. And again, he was sort of like cutting off some supplies from the US to Ukraine. That time didn't work out for Trump. Let's see what's going to happen next now. What really makes me sad and frustrated that Trump doesn't invent anything, sort of like this, like awful narratives. He just repeats what Russian propaganda does. And it's just, as a journalist, makes me really sad, because he should be more creative. Yes, he plays macho card. Yes, he's bold. Yes, he's sort of like, you know, very, not very intelligent, let's put it like that. But at the same time, can you be a bit more creative rather than repeating what Kremlin says? Well, let's see. I keep fingers crossed. But at the same time, just before our live, I was checking the news, seeing what's happening. There were speculations, but then it was sort of like, it was explained that it's not true. That my possibility of the hold of the ammunition supply from the US. Then just before the live, I've checked it, and it said, no, that's not true. But when I was sort of like, when I saw these claims and speculations that it might be the weapon stop from sort of Ukraine might be being cutting off from any aid which is going now from the US, everything. When I talked to my sources, among the sort of officers of the armed forces, they said the situation is very difficult. It is very dangerous. And and they would kind of like, those who I talk to, they kind of like more old school. They would rather play the balancing and sort of obedient type, knowing how Ukraine depends on those supplies. I wouldn't agree, because when I was checking, well, with Trump, we understand that he makes some claims or some accusation, and then 5 minutes later, he forgets everything and he can contradict himself. So you can't really expect any logic from them. But I checked the journalists, those YouTubers who have millions of supports, and those who on Trump's side. And I just wanted to see, are they kind of state journalists and kind of denying those false or the lie that Trump said? But actually, I've heard something outrageous. So basically, according to these people, Ukraine should be doing what she was told, because Ukraine doesn't decide anything, and Ukraine should be grateful for sort of kind of like Trump wanting to finish the war because he's so great. And the other thing is like, you would get more from pleasing Trump rather than making him angry. So basically, someone who is absolutely wrong, can't control his temper, he's one of the most, or maybe the most powerful man in the world. So, and when he's wrong, you have to just shut up and try to twist him somehow and hope for the best. Really? Really? We live in the age where sort of this is the dialogue of educated, civilized people who achieved something in the world, and actually who is supported by millions. I'm referring to this journalist. I was shocked, because this is so wrong. Ukrainians, never been doing, not on the level of like nation or country, or sort of like individual level. You should never tell people what to do, because this is the shortest way to hear no and cut off all the dialogue, possibilities of dialogue. Ukrainians prove that Kiev in 3 days, as Putin planned, is not going to happen, and never happened. And again, I probably said it in one of my interviews with my guest on the podcast, but we are survivors, and freedom and independence and dignity, it's in our DNA. We might quite easily lose in our lives. Everything was dear to our heart, but we're not gonna agree. We are not slaves. We are free and intelligent and smart people. We are the nation of warriors. So Putin probably will learn it hard way, like Gaddafi and guys like that. But Trump, you know, I mean, I don't expect a lot from the guy, but he has some sort of somebody educated around him, right? Somebody sort of can speak his language and explain these things. Because this is absolutely sort of wrong strategy, unless he is deaf and blind, even to own inner circle. So, new tactics of my message today, or my sort of things I wanted to share with you, that Zelenskyy tried new tactics. It resonates with me. Let's see if it's gonna get us somewhere. And I know, and I can see it pleases my heart. Shocking, the news, but it pleases my heart that Ukraine is getting united. And last time when Putin decided to support Russian speakers in Ukraine, I won't lie, I don't know the percentage, and I don't think this sort of relevant data exists, how many people switched from Russian into Ukraine, how people got united and put all their efforts, money, lives to support and be with Ukraine and push this stinky dictator back. We'll see if it's gonna work, but let's try to keep calm. Let's try to keep positive, and let's appreciate what we have. And let's appreciate the spirit, the fighting spirits of Ukrainians and all those friends who are with us, who are backing us up and helping. And it's really helped kind of like to keep my spirits up. And I saw the messages from Ben Wallace, former defense secretary from the UK, and Boris Johnson. So they were there on Ukrainian side, and even now when they know in the power, know in the government, they're still supporting Ukraine and staying there. Let me know in the comments. I'm just looking at your comments. What do you think and everything? How did you manage your emotions? Because I'll be honest with you, I try to be a journalist, but every time when I was opening the news and reading it, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I just want to wake up. This is nightmare. It can't be true. This is not a modern world. We don't live in this nightmare. Okay. So in your comments, we see the Russian speakers here. Okay. Trump equals Russian ambassador, best job for empty suit. Yeah, I mean, it looks like that. I hope it's all sort of tricks of coming negotiations, and it's just one of the aspects of his macho card. I hope it's not. Nazar Kinashka said, oh no, but your last president was the best. Maybe for some people. I'm not quite sure. But it's my personal opinion. There are things which makes me really frustrated about Poroshenko. Danko saying, hello everyone, working but listening. Okay, good luck with your work. Thank you for listening. Share your thoughts. Okay, I can't. I can see the French speaker. I'm very sorry for pronunciation. I'm just started learning French. I wouldn't. So Dr. Rujan Elidith say, in French, but I understand you say in Ukraine and Zelenskyy, your hero. Well, that's good. Thank you for your kind support. Ala Kazaba saying Trump is an empty suit, someone who proposed himself as powerful, wise, competent, actually not very good at his job. Oh, you see, it's just like people voted for him. You see, American people, and these days when I heard these statements, I was thinking, oh my goodness, where's the wise American people? Why? So yeah, he do you know, he's quite an interesting case for example, for psychological portrait. Why he's doing what he's doing, what drives him. Was he a loved child, or he was trying to please his parents? So that would be interesting to look. Yes, I agree with you. Not actually everyone good at his job. Well, I think it's the hardest job, really. I would never like to be a president. Blonde bombshell, hello everyone. Yes, I can see Dr. Jean Elodie saying Zelenskyy, Hero Ukraine. Well, I think so. He didn't betray Ukraine, and he puts his everything to make things right. So we had Yanukovych. Ukraine had Yanukovych, so there was quite embarrassment even before he escaped. He escaped. It was kind of relieved, but but there was crisis in there was quite weak for the statehood, for the everything, but people got together, so all well. Okay, Nazar Kinash saying, how much land did Poroshenko lose and how much land did Zelenskyy lose? Well, it's a tricky question because Poroshenko was elected after the Crimea was annexed and after the invasion sort of basically happened in the east. So it's not really... Poroshenko is an experienced politician. He's been all his life a part of having successful business and being one of the oligarchs in Ukraine. He was also the secretary of the Security Council. He was the minister of the Foreign Affairs. So he was quite kind of like old school politicians. Zelenskyy, he was absolutely newcomer. He stormed his way to the political post, and basically people's love brought him up, and he is different from everyone. And I remember his one of the promises, sort of his presidential campaign, just to stop the war, because all you have to do is just stop shooting. Well, yes, but it's not as that easy, is it? So he learned his hard way. And think about it, who would be able to manage through the full-scale invasion with the country sort of like with small army, not as much ammunition? So I think he did best in the current situation. So it's, and full-scale invasion, you can't be prepared for this job. And no matter how many institutions or qualifications you get, no one ever will prepare you, because there are a part of your personality or your stamina. There's also team and the people and support and the unity of the country when the full-scale invasion happens. So there's many factors. So I think it's not really right to put the question that way, Nazar, but thank you for your perspective. Cheryl say, even Denis Davidov says he will vote for Zelenskyy now, Poroshenko guy. Yes, you see, it's just it's interesting, for me personally interesting, when the people from the other camp, from Poroshenko camp, which is quite significant in Ukraine, and I'm a journalist, I watch them, I listen, I read them. For me, interesting, you know, that kind of point, and especially, you know, they live in the country. I don't. So for me, it's sort of like not really correct to judge or anything. So I try to see on both sides, but obviously I'm an emotional person myself. That's why I'm sort of saying that this approach of Zelenskyy resonated with me. Will it get us everything what Ukraine needs? I don't know, but we'll see. So yeah, there are twists. And also unity, you know, unity when someone's trying to mock your president is like, oh, wrong tactics. Ala Kazaba saying, biggest shock for Trump is now understand that Trump can handle Putin less well than Zelenskyy. Yes, yes, absolutely. And some of Ukrainian sort of political experts, they say in this meeting, the Russian team and American team, and Russians came there and they sort of like agreed for everything before they were asked. And Trump thought he's going to push it through for Ukrainians as well, because he did made Russians to do the things, and now he'll do Ukrainians not so fast. Yes, I agree on that. Alakazaba said, words matter, it's no campaign season. If they don't matter, then the office has less power than advised. Oh, yeah, possibly. But I don't know. I'm not a political expert, but let's see how it goes. Cheryl says, Trump repeats the words of the last person. As fixed to, yeah, I can't imagine how to work with this person. If it's true, let's imagine, Cheryl, you are true. First thing, I can't imagine how to work with him. I think it's like nightmare. But being married to him, no way. Okay, Hare Krishna loves Trump. Okay, good luck, Hare Krishna. Cheryl, Trump is probably flattering his crypto wallet. Yeah. Possibly. Well, you see, it's the thing. The same with Poroshenko. You see, on one hand, he's kind of believable, and I remember myself and my discussions with friends before the elections when he was elected. And I thought, I didn't vote, but I thought it's like Poroshenko should be elected, because as a journalist in the early 2000s, I was working and I was sort of coming across him in the press conferences and some political events. And he kind of like, he has this sort of like way to convince people. At that time, it felt like he's the right person to be. But also looking at his presidency, he never stopped being a businessman. You see, this kind of, it's at core of his personality. And for example, you know, his sweets factory in Russia and other things, how he was dealing business with Medvedchuk, best pal of Putin in Ukraine, before he was arrested and exchanged, and other bits. So it's kind of like being on one side oligarch or businessman, on the other side the president of the country. It doesn't really work for him, with him. Same seems the business approach with Trump. I'm just wondering who will dominate. Is the businessman going to be, or the statesman, or the world leader? At the moment, it's like shocking what's happening. Well, I don't know. Okay, Hare Krishna reminds us again that he loves Trump. Good luck. Alakazaba, Trump will unleash his flying monkeys against Zelenskyy, but it'll fail. But a beautiful ocean not only impedes travel but understanding. Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It kind of like, you having advisors, you having experts, it's quite complicated matter, even if you personally do not understand that part of the world. So surely you should have someone who gets it. Like Zelenskyy, he has his advisors, his people who has not just understanding of Europeans or Brits or Americans, also has connections with people there to find common ground, to discuss things. So I'm quite shocked that, see what's happening, which is happening. More love from Dr. Dijon Elodie to Zelenskyy. Okay, Zelenskyy has lots of love from you. Fantastic. I hope it will keep him strong and keep going. Okay, Alakazaba voted, but people also buy houses and cars, so they regret. He doesn't have the temperament for good leadership. Well, let's see. You see, everything was happening. I would like to see, I saw the sort of the coverage of protesters of American people against Trump in the US, but I don't think it's quite as significant as a sort of like some group of people wanted to show their attitude. Dan Gusen, I will stand with Ukraine until I die. Oh, please don't die, but thank you very much for your kindness, support. Ukraine needs it big time. Especially now, just to keep saying, carry on, taking the breath and keep fighting for freedom and for dignity, not being occupied by the dwarf from Kremlin. Okay. Oh, thank you, Pedro. Lots of love. Oh, Poroshenko business. Yeah, yeah. I know what you. I am guessing what you mean. Yes, he had the business um, with Russians, and it was one of the weak points which they were pushing through negotiation. And also there were speculations that Poroshenko had some sort of business with Medvedchuk again, and sort of like something like laundering money from the east. When east already was east of Ukraine, when it was occupied by Russians. I didn't go into details, by the way, investigations of Ukrainian journalists. If you're interested, check it out. Danko say, hey, you big sister, I'm working, but I know you're the... Good luck with your work, enjoy your work. Lots of inspiration. Yeah, Cheryl, you're absolutely right. Ukrainians have more practice. Yeah, if something doesn't kill us, make us stronger, doesn't it? And Cheryl says, my father was a builder in Queens, just like Trump before becoming a missionary. He was too honest for the New York cesspool. Yeah, it's, yeah, I know what you mean. It's difficult, isn't it, when you understand on the top of the most powerful positions in the country, people who can decide not the life of hundreds, millions, but different countries, and they're not as good as we all would like to do it. Tell me, please, if you would be interested, because recently I come across, I'm checking for sort of like through analysis, but I'm thinking to do something if we compare like maybe to look at these leaders, or people say from psychological side. I know that 96% of audience on my podcast channel are male, and doing the psychological analysis, it's more sort of like interested for women. I might be wrong, but would you be interested to look at these leaders and from this aspect? If you do, we can do something. We can have interview, or we can do some kind of feature. So we will see how we can approach it. Ala Kazava said, and please address the Ukrainian elections rules aside. Does anyone with any sense think a pro-Russian or anti-war candidate would actually get elected to survive the public outrage? Do you know, it's at the moment it's difficult to say, because there are a lot of claims that, the election campaign started, because those people who come somehow part of the political process, they started saying things that didn't make sense unless it's the election. And I think there are a lot of kind of like checking, playing sort of like how strong is the electorate for Russian speakers, or those who just neutral, or they just want to stop the missiles flying and the bombings and everything. So it's hard to say really, because I think the political field will be very different this time. There will be lots of new names, but I don't think such probably Poroshenko will be there if he's still out of because in Ukraine he's sort of might be under sanctions. No, it's actually Ukraine, not him, other, but there's something he needs to deal with the law. So basically, looks like from my perspective, he has some support. I don't know if Yulia Tymoshenko, the lady with the plaid, if she has some chances. She's trying to be relevant, but I don't know. We'll see. She's quite charismatic, but I think she's quite outdated for the modern political life, and especially she's super rich. And there were investigations showing what luxurious life she led in with her family in Dubai, and how sort of like, luxury here, luxury there, which is not something would resonate with Ukrainians at the moment. It's hard to say. I think it's early days, but it's something I think it will be lots of people who've been the army and fighting for Ukraine and risking their own lives. They will be at the election campaign. Maybe some sort of people former showbiz and they would like to join parliament, or I don't know. Lots of speculations about Zelenskyy, former chief commander, who is Ukrainian ambassador in London at the moment. So we'll see. It's early to say. Cheryl says, psychologist married Trump, his niece goes into Trump's psychological profile. I remember some time ago, I came across this information, but something new. I discovered interesting angle for a bunch of them. Might be worth looking. Might be worth, because at the moment, I try to find the middle ground between the current events and something for us to look at everything from the different aspect, to keep sane and not to lose our mind. Thank you, Cheryl. I'll check her, because I came across her and but quite a while ago. I probably wouldn't remember. I'll check them. I think it's all for today. Thank you for joining. Just remind you, if you'd like to join live and you like our chat and comments and expressing your opinion, which I appreciate, and I'm endlessly grateful that you find this, how many minutes? 36 minutes of your time and spend it here and discussing instead of having nap. I'm endlessly grateful. Before I say goodbye, Cheryl says, my student in Lviv wants Budanov as president. Oh, it's a dangerous path, don't say that. When the time is right. What do you think of this idea? Well, I met Budanov. I sort of, as a producer of ITV, ITV News, I arranged an interview with him and I was translating it. And it was June 2022. And it was quite fascinating. It was very funny because we arrived and the reporter was James Mates and it's European editor ITV News. So basically we arrived, we were coming through, there was one of the entrances to the place where we arrived for this interview, and they didn't tell us the address, or went half an hour before, actually, when we got into the car, and then they sent me the address. So that's kind of like James Bond thing. We arrived, we're getting out of the van with the crew, and there's a group of men in pixel, Ukrainian uniform. And one of them was Budanov. And I noticed, and he was just casually standing with the guys, he didn't look anything, you wouldn't see big stars or anything fancy. He's just like one of those guys. And I was surprised, oh my God, what are you doing here? Straight away. And he smiled and he was finishing conversation. But James Mates, he was just stormed through. He didn't notice Budanov. And when Budanov finished, he turned around, it's like, James, please just meet Kirill Budanov. And that was quite funny. And then we obviously been checked, all the security. And I have to say, his security and the people kind of, the office, they all very handsome. It feels like there's face control for pleasant faces. And then for me, it was very interesting because I know the guys who were head of defense intelligence before him, and they are quite older and more experienced, and he has different stories. And when he was appointed, there was he jumped over 12 steps of the hierarchy, which was shocking. And so while the cameraman was setting up everything, we had a chat. And he's a big fan of military history books, and he's coming from his father and grandfather are officers, so he likes those things. And he was fascinating and genuinely sharing the quotes and the facts, and there were books and I was shocked because it was June 2022, so it's quite dramatic time. Still, it's kind of settling down, but I knew at the front line it was difficult. So, and we were discussing, and so he asked who's going to be, he understands English, but the preference was for him speaking Ukrainian, so I was translating. And James wanted simultaneous translation. As you know, simultaneous translation is like separate training, and those people like the highest qualification. I'm not highest qualification, I just speak the language. And James explained how he wanted me to sort of like sit and how to approach, you know, those things, just to keep the conversation as natural as you can in the circumstance. Because as you understand through translation, there are things getting lost, can be. And Budanov asked if I am qualified simultaneous translator. I was like, no, yeah, but when I have to, I do my best. And then when the camera was off and sort of, he's like, and he was very focused and he was very serious and kind of like changed of face. That was quite funny. And then, yeah, the interview went well. And there was the day before we left, you know, the crew in Kiev was sort of like, we had like a month there to work on different stories and everything. There was like the day before we were leaving. And talking to him, knowing how hard it was for Ukraine, was quite inspiring and quite enthusiastic. So I think he has bright, answering the question, he has bright political future. I hope it's not going to be messed up or spoiled or anything. And so far he plays correct politically, knowing the peculiarities of the inner political life and the feelings of all the people involved. So I think he's quite smart. Good luck to him, and I see how he's changing, and hopefully one day I'll interview him for the podcast. Keep fingers crossed. Yeah, he would be the right person. My question is, I would be happy and come for Ukraine if he is going to be one of those people in the future to have the highest position in Ukraine. So yeah, Cheryl, thank you for your question. Yeah, but he's dangerous, but he's very open. And being honest, most of the people, or you know, I'm a journalist, so I was always presented the best people to speak from defense intelligence, and they all, or 99%, naturally and professionally very charming and very smart. So the selection process, you can see how they are, why they're selective, and why they so, why they do what they do, and why they're good at it. Okay, thank you everyone for our time, for our communication. Thank you for your question, comments. I appreciate everyone, honestly. It means a lot to me. Yes, Cheryl, dangerous to Russians. See you. Please find your opportunity to join me on Monday, 7:30 p.m. We'll discuss something very special, super special. I prepared you for this Sunday. I hope you will be excited and interested and intrigued. Absolutely outstanding person will be on Sunday. Take care. Have a nice evening, and let's keep fingers crossed for everything to settle down and Ukraine will prevail. Bye.